Hey everyone, welcome to this edition with Keeping It Real with Shayna Recker. And I'm really excited, Cassandra, you are my first guest of 2019 for the Keeping It Real podcast. Woo woo! January was a whole bunch of just me just spurting out thoughts and ideas. And now we're digging into interviews. And I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today. You guys just buckle up and get ready because Cassandra has like some awesome stuff going on in her life. I'm just going to share with you guys here. Cassandra is a brand and business doula. She's a transformation, branding, and business coach, empowering women to live the lives and build the dreams they are capable of. So she's perfectly equipped for this podcast. She is the founder of Tola Marketing, a creative digital marketing agency for contemporary entrepreneurial women. She's also the co-founder of Milk and Cookie, which I love this, a lactation support cookie company for breastfeeding and pumping mamas. We've all been there, me 3 times. She's a real life doula and the host of the Labor of Love podcast. She's been featured in CEO Blog Nation, Ad Age, and Herepreneur. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, I think so. That's how I say it.
I love it. I love it. So you guys, like, so much awesomeness going on here. She has a love and an expertise for finding creative and intuitive solutions that help people grow their businesses. And you've grown 8 businesses in your time. I cannot wait to hear about this. You guys, she's helping women entrepreneurs all across the globe start their own businesses, find their processes, doing the strategy, all the things. And I want to talk about all of the things. And Cassandra, welcome, first of all.
Hi, thank you.
So excited to have you. And you are from North Carolina?
Yeah, I live in North Carolina now. I'm originally from California, went to school in Boston, now in North Carolina.
You kind of moved around. That's funny. I love California. Did you love growing up in California?
I did, yeah. I love the weather in California. I love heat, but I don't love humidity.
Yeah.
So I feel like in North Carolina, we get the heat, but we get like the humidity where your hair turns into like an afro.
Yeah, I love that. I know we get humid heat here in London, Ontario too in the summers. It's crazy. But no, I can appreciate that. California is like my dream place. Like that's where I'm going to end up someday because I'm done with winters, that's for sure. But we didn't come here to talk about the weather. We came here to talk all about business. Okay, so I'm excited to hear from you. And I want you to start, if you can go back, because you've built 8 businesses. So there's like so much like awesome things that we could talk about. But I want to go back to the beginning. Where did that transformation happen for you when you're a doula, you're working that, and then you just all of a sudden decided you wanted to start a business? Like, how did that happen for you? What was going on in your life at that time? I'd love to hear that story.
So actually my first business was when I was 7 years old.
Oh my God, I love it.
Kids have like the lemonade stands.
Yeah.
I took it to a whole different level. I was making jewelry and literally selling it to wholesalers so they could resell my jewelry. So I had a wholesale catalog at age 7 and we'd like drive around and do deliveries. Like that was my first entrepreneurial endeavor.
Yeah, I love it.
Was like, I think I had 13 like people who sold my jewelry where we happened to live, which was super hysterical because people are like, oh, 7, you were like standing there selling popsicles. I'm like, oh, no. Like we were good. We were legit. And I started hiring employees and like, it was like a really cool, like early 1990s, late 80s, like version of Etsy.
Yeah. Yeah. For real though.
Yeah, for real. That's where it started.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was my first business when it came to that. My actual like legitimate first business was actually a marketing agency in college.
Oh, okay.
So I partnered with a couple people and we were like, hey, let's go do this thing. And like, we were working for the Small Business Development Center in Providence, Rhode Island. Mm-hmm. And we decided to do a spin-off of that and do a marketing agency really when digital was just getting started.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. And then, so where did the doula thing come in?
So the doula thing.
Okay. So then when did the doula thing come in? How did you, like, where did that come in to all this?
Doula thing actually didn't start for a little while.
Okay.
So, about 8 years ago, I was married to my first husband and I had a stillborn.
Okay.
4 weeks. And I went through that process alone. So I actually started not as a labor support doula or not as like a postpartum, which are more commonly known, but I started out as a grief doula. And I was really helping women who had a miscarriage, who had a stillborn kind of go through that process. And then it later moved into more of the traditional labor support, like with you while you're actually giving birth doula.
Mm-hmm. And then, so you did that for how long?
I'm still doing that, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So it's still something you do.
Yeah, I'll still pick up clients here and there. From a labor support standpoint, I only do a couple a year. But from a grief, I work with a lot of the other doulas in Charlotte. And if a lot of people don't know how to cope with that.
Mm-hmm.
So if they do have a client that experienced that, in the doula world, we don't necessarily refund the money.
Yeah.
What we've worked out is a really, really good partnership where they then pay me and they'll get the additional support that they need.
Mm-hmm. And so really ultimately, like one of the things that I talk about a lot is about taking something that you've experienced. Like for those who are thinking about wanting to have something in the online space, they want to start a business, but they're not really sure what that looks like or what it should be. And that's like a perfect example of taking an experience that you've been through, and that one, you're ready and capable of being able to help other people with what you've experienced. Because I think a lot of times, and would you agree that you don't always have to have a certificate that says you're certified in X, Y, and Z in order to be able to be online and be able to help and coach people, right? Would you not agree with that?
No, I mean, absolutely. Every one of my businesses that has been successful
Mm-hmm.
has been because I've birthed because of something I've been through.
Yes.
So like, we'll get into it, I know, but like the lactation cookie company, it's because I had issues breastfeeding. Like the marketing agency, it's because I had no idea where to find the information that I needed online. And I had, I was outsourcing, but I had 8 different teams of people who didn't talk to one another. The coaching is because guess what? No one told me how to build a business for the first 5 years.
Yeah, I love that. And that's the thing, right? Like nowadays it's so, and we're going to talk about this, but it's so much easier, I would say, to be able to build a business, get it online, and call in clients and call in, your community and be able to help and serve people than it's ever been before, right? Like the future is going there. And so I think what holds a lot of people back is, and I know it held me back, was that whole, feeling like a fraud. Like I don't have a certificate on my wall that says I'm a certified, coach, but yet I have experiences much like you building a business, and I wanted to help people to be less frustrated than I was, learning from the experiences. So I love that. So then how did you how many businesses do you actually still have running today? 8?
No. I currently have the doula business. I have the lactation cookie company. I have the marketing agency. I have the podcast and the coaching business, and I'm opening another one.
Okay. So you have lots. So my first question to you, because I know there's people who are listening to this right now going like, okay, I want to start a business. I have a full-time job. Can I do both? Okay. So you have 8 businesses. How do you manage the time and the brain space and all that? Because I think that's another thing that holds people back, is that a lot of times when we start our online businesses, we can't just quit everything and just start an online business, right? We need to have money coming in and all that stuff. So how do you stay focused and on task and keep everything organized? Like, what are your biggest tips around that?
Oh my goodness. So blocking time has been my best friend,
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, because in Enneagram, I'm a 7.
Mm-hmm.
I am like the definition of squirrel.
Yeah, that's me.
Like for me, I have to actually devote time and figure out for the month, actually, I sit down and I say, okay, I have X number of hours. Right now I work 20 hours a week. So I'm not working crazy. I mean, I had the hustle in the past where I worked from 4 a.m. to 6 p.m. I've done that. Yeah. But in this season of my life, I'm only working 20 hours a week. So say that I have 80 hours per month. In that 80 hours, how many hours am I devoting to each particular business and which season that I want to grow them in?
Yes.
So seasons like last year where I spent a lot of time in the cookie company and I was networking and I was pitching boutiques and pitching wholesalers and talking to Whole Foods and whatever the case is. And in this season, it's actually launching more of the coaching. So I kind of have set myself up with a calendar, so to speak, of where I want to focus my energies.
Yes.
And think of things that are evergreen and that I can not only produce once, but then sell multiple times that will continually add value.
Yes, I love that. And I am so glad you brought up the seasons, because I think that's sometimes what we struggle with, because a lot of the listeners that we have in Keeping It Real, they have full-time jobs, they're have a network marketing business, and now they're thinking about this other thing. And I know that's something that I struggled with too, is I'm in the season of growing this particular business. So this other business might not be, totally on fire right now, but that's okay, because we have to be able to recognize the season we're in and know that we can always kind of move around and go back to those things. Right. So seasons, I think it's so good to think of it in that way. And same with the chunking of the time. I'm very much like you. I have to block, like Mondays are this day. I work on this on Mondays. Okay. Tuesday is this day, you know, and sort of blocking it that way. Can you shed a little bit more light on the evergreen? So for those who may not know what evergreen is, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, totally. So I look at them in two different sections. So evergreen is something that I can make and continuously sell. So like, say it's like an ebook, or it's an actual book, or maybe it's a course that I pre-record, versus like a campaign style like piece of business is like, you could look at the cookies kind of campaign, because every time we sell, we have to make.
Yeah.
But like, you know, if I'm doing a live one-on-one coaching, or if I'm doing an event or an online summit or something like that, that's more of the content that, yes, it has a shelf life, so to speak, versus just something that I can put out there and continuously offer.
Yeah. So like the evergreening is something you spend time building once, but then it can live on and people can be purchasing it over and over and over again for however long the content is valid for, I guess you would say, right? So spending some time building some evergreen things these days is super smart, because people are looking, like, wouldn't you say that more and more people are moving to the online space to be educated?
Oh, yeah.
Versus finding like a college degree, or, you know, like, I'm not saying I'm against those things. Of course, like, go to college, go to school, get your education. But I find that for a lot of us who maybe, like, I went through school for graphic design. I do some graphic design, but I'm not a graphic designer anymore, because I've re-educated myself online and switch gears, much like you have. You've switched gears multiple times, right?
So it's funny, because I actually have right over there, I kid you not, hanging on the wall, a master's in innovative entrepreneurship, which was like a thing at one school when I graduated, you know, something 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Really, really funny that I look at that and people are like, oh, no one has a degree in entrepreneurship. I'm like, well, actually, there was one. But what I learned there, even like just looking at that, like, yes, I have the piece of formal education, but like, we were learning billboards. Like, Google Ads wasn't a thing. Facebook wasn't a thing. So it's funny, because even if you have the formalized education, the entrepreneurial journey, I feel like, is a continuous piece of education that needs to go on.
Oh, absolutely. And the cool thing is that continual piece can be done online through podcasts, through hiring coaches and mentors online and working, you know, remotely. Like, there's just so much, like, Facebook groups. You can learn about business by being a part of a paid Facebook group that offers, and even some free ones out there that help you to figure these things out. And I think that's just such a cool place that we're moving to business-wise, that, you know, people all over the world can learn and grow from each other. Like, it's not just one sort of, like, you know, hot person that you have to learn from. There's multiple millions of people that you can learn from based on your styles and what works for you, right? Would you say most of your business runs online? Like, everything runs online these days?
For the most part. The cookie company is where we have a little bit of an extension in person. And then the next business that I'm currently working on will actually be another brick and mortar.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. And what's that going to be?
So it's actually a co-working space, but it's a co-working space that has a childcare facility attached.
Yeah.
So again, continuing my theme of working with women entrepreneurs, mama can work and get some things done while our kids are taken care of. Really kind of the best of both worlds.
That is an amazing concept. I could see that franchising.
That's the goal.
Yeah, there we go.
Franchise yet.
Yeah. Get one successfully up and running. But that is also leading into the mompreneur who's working an online business, right? Like, sometimes because the cool thing with the online space and having a business online is that it doesn't require 8 hours a day of you being in an office space. Like, both my businesses that I built online, I built with sometimes like a little guy in my arms breastfeeding while I was typing on Facebook, you know, or I was doing a Facebook Live while, you know, the little one was on the floor playing with some toys, like in little small chunks, right? Like, having an online business these days doesn't mean you need to lock yourself in an office space for 40 hours a week to be able to have a successful business, right?
No, absolutely. And it's funny, because some of the bigger businesses I work with started out as blogs. Like, literally not even blogging for money, just like, I mean, one of them was a food blogger. She started like posting her recipes up there, and now she A, quit her job, B, had her husband quit his job, B, like, our C's both stay-at-home parents now, traveling around the world to, like, last place I checked, y'all, she was at an olive farm.
Yeah.
Like, I want to go to an olive farm for like a job.
Yeah. Well, because they get sponsorships, right? Like their blog picks up, and then all of a sudden, like companies like Kraft or whatever, they're like, hey, you blog about our product, we're going to pay you money. Like,
exactly. She got paid a lot of money to go to this olive farm, and it was paid for her entire family. And she spent like the week in Napa. I'm like, that sounds awful.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, and that's a thing, like sometimes, and I've heard this phrase before, is that there's a lot of us out there who become accidental entrepreneurs, like the bloggers and those who are, you know, just building a brand online and, you know, maybe doing live videos and talking about a certain topic that they're passionate about. And then you realize that, wait a minute, I can actually make money doing this. Like I can actually make money by either coaching and educating people who, you know, want more service than just the live free stuff I'm doing, or through sponsorships or through, you know, partnerships and things like that. So there's so much potential online.
Let's talk about the money thing for a second.
Yes, let's go there. Go for it, girl.
Get there.
Yes.
I feel like also people automatically assume because they're new to something, they shouldn't be able to charge for that something, even though it's their time and energy that's coming through it. So it's funny because for me, like one of the first things that I do with everyone I've ever coached is figure out their target hourly income. And it's not rocket science. So people are like, yeah, I'll feel successful when I make six figures is generally what I hear.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, cool. What is that six figures actually buying you that's going to complete when you feel whole versus like having something that has six figures? Tell you right now, it doesn't necessarily matter if there's a six-figure number, if you're actually fulfilled based on what you want.
Yes.
So it's funny because that's the first thing we do is help them figure out like that. And then pricing. Because I've seen like, I'm going to say this for one quick second, is I was literally on a coaching call yesterday too. And she said that she was a potential client. She said, I want to do an ebook and I want to sell it for $297. And I want to make $10,000 a month on that ebook. Mm-hmm. So like getting clear with that, I'm like, okay, cool. What is that ebook about? It's content that was already found online that she curated and twisted to actually make it something that was easily used and manageable for her clients.
Yep.
Genius. Done.
Perfect. Yeah. And knowing that because that's one of the things that people struggle with is how much should I charge for this? And I often look like, you know, it's one thing to go, okay, well, I put 5 hours into it or 20 hours into it, but then it's also like, I've also been like, I know my husband, he's a branding specialist. And when people say, well, how much is it for a logo? And he's like, well, it takes me maybe 5 hours to do a logo, but it's taken him, 15 years to be able to do a logo in 5 hours. So when he prices his logos and they're like, what, that only took you this many hours. No, maybe it only takes me that many hours because I've taken this much time to learn and get experience. Right. So when you're pricing your stuff, there's more to the value than just the physical time you put into it, right?
And we do live in this world where where everything is so accessible that people are like, oh, it's only 5 hours of your time. But like, same with me, I can design a really good website for 20 hours.
Yeah.
But it's taken me 15 years to get to that point, to know where to put things, to know where to click, to know how to add a button, to know how to add meta text, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
You have that expertise, but we tend to devalue people's expertise in the online space.
So true. Yeah. And so if you're listening and you're thinking about your pricing right now, I always say, like, go higher than what you think it's worth, because you are probably undercutting yourself because of, just the whole mindset, self-imagey kind of things that we struggle with as being entrepreneurs, especially being women, and just put it out higher. And I also find with pricing too, it is a bit of a game. Like you can put something out there and it might not work, but then you might be able to adjust it and change it and try it again at a different price point, and then it catches. Like it's a constant evolution of trying and playing and putting it out there and figuring and fiddling, right? Would you not agree? Absolutely. Yeah. Like it's not always going to be perfect the first time.
And it's funny too, because like in the online space too, I'm a huge fan of value adds.
Mm-hmm.
Like which I'm taking into the brick and mortar space now too. I'm having a founding member rate. And I'm like, oh, value added. If you're a founding member, you're also going to get an hour of coaching with me for the first 6 months.
Oh, I love that.
Like, so it's funny because there's things that apply necessarily, like that's an online thing is the value adds, but I'm like, let's apply it to other businesses, because if it works in one, it works in the other too.
I love it. And now you've got me thinking about something. I just want to ask you something, because this is something that I think, people are thinking about. One of the things I'm getting from you as we're chatting here is you have this, and I don't even know if you feel the fear, but you have this thing where you come up with idea and you're not afraid to try it. And so I want to just go down this kind of mindset of fear for a minute, because this is, I think, one of the things that holds people back from putting themselves out there in the online space is that fear of like, what if it doesn't work? And like, you can hear Cassandra when she's talking, like, she's like, well, we just thought like, well, hey, if this is like this, well, we should try it here. And like, and you just do it, right? And then you figure it out. So can you like talk a little bit about your thoughts and feelings around feeling the fear and not knowing and throwing the spaghetti at the wall, and like, can you share some things about that to help encourage people?
Yeah, but I also want to add one thing to that. Yeah. As you're like listening to me, I've had failed businesses. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to get that out there because that's not a lot of things successful entrepreneurs talk about. I've had failed businesses. Yeah. I've spent $25,000 on a business that did not work. Mm. I've had, a subscription box business that had one customer for 6 months. Mm. That cost me like, I don't even know. I won't even add that business up, but I had one customer for 6 months, literally. And we were curating subscription boxes where we had to buy a minimum of product. I am still using gluten-free flour from that subscription box. So I want to get that out there that like, yes, I try a ton of stuff, and luckily like a ton of stuff has been successful, but there are things that I've tried that have just been like, bombs.
Yeah. 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 And I'm glad that you added that in. And that's something that's so true. Like, even when like we're saying with the pricing, like I've done the same thing where I've priced something and I've launched it, done like a full launch thing, and it's like crickets. And it's like, you're just like, I just spent like months building this and putting this together. I thought it was so great. And then it's not. And that's okay, because that's part of the process, right? Like the failures is how you learn, so that when you go and do the next thing, you can kind of go, okay, well, we're not going to do that piece again, right? Because you get burned, right? And you kind of learn from that.
Yeah, so I'll talk about, and a really clear example from that is the subscription box company. Mm-hmm. I planned for 8 months this subscription box company. We found vendors, we like sourced product from like Italy and the UK and Canada. Like it was called Gluten-Free Food Box. Mm. And this was before gluten-free food was literally like in every store in Target.
Mainstream. Yeah.
So we spent 8 months doing like research and development. We launched it. We had so many people being like, that's a really good idea. And we had one customer. So holding on to that, when I had the cookie company, I'm like 4 months in, I'm like, it'd be really cool to have a subscription box. And my husband looks at me and goes, no. And I'm like, but we already have the market. No. And I'm like, but. So it's funny because I held on to that fear too for a really long time. We launched the subscription box for the cookie company. And we're like, we'll just try it. We won't do a big launch. 40 subscribers like that.
Isn't that funny how that works sometimes?
So it's funny. Again, I pull it into seasons as well to kind of continue down that theme. But I'm like, maybe that one wasn't the right season for it. But like this one actually is. And it's funny because as I look at my calendar, things ebb and flow of like the seasonality of subscriptions for me. Yeah. Yeah. So like we had almost everyone cancel in November. Yeah. And then everyone sign back up in January.
Yeah. Isn't that funny, eh?
But you can't, my thing is you can't take that personal. Mm-hmm. Like if I had sat there and looked at the numbers and I was like, well, I guess my subscription box was a dud again. And like, maybe I shouldn't do anything with reoccurring revenue. Mm-hmm. And then I canceled it before I had the opportunity to see what it looked like in January.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I think that's, you bring up a good point, is that these businesses aren't built overnight. Like you have to give these things time. Like I look at, someone like Rachel Hollis, her story about, 8 years as a blogger, grinding it out before she actually exploded and became the Rachel Hollis she is today. Like you don't often see those things that go on behind the scenes before somebody becomes like the big thing. Right. And so you have to give those things enough time, right? And so the cookie subscription is successful. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's awesome.
As of January, it picked back up. It was like January 1st, the light switch came and everyone signed back up. And I'm like, okay, so people took off. It's funny because in my head, I'm like, so did they take a break from breastfeeding for the holidays? Like, it shouldn't be a product that's quote unquote seasonal, but it is.
Yeah.
And that's just what happens.
That's funny. And so those are cookies that people can buy that support their, so it gives them the vitamins, minerals, and things that help support their breast milk, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. So it helps produce quantity and quality breast milk.
Okay.
So really, really cool is a lot of the products on the market help produce more quantity, and they look at the very short-term game.
Yeah.
I worked with a number of people who are doulas and who midwives in the birth space in Australia and who in the UK and New Zealand, who have really great long-term successful breastfeeding stories versus short-term. So we're actually the only cookie on the market that helps with quality too. So you get almost, I always describe it like skim milk versus heavy cream that your baby's like baby's sleeping, mama's happier, and mama's producing more.
Order more cookies.
Exactly.
And I'm going to put the link to that. I'm going to put the links to all of that stuff in the podcast show notes. And what is it? What is the website for that? Just for those who
Milk and Cookie.
Milkandcookie. Okay.
Yep.
.com.
I'll tell it to you, and I'll shoot you a promo code too for your listeners.
Awesome. Okay. So I'll put that in the show notes and in all the places and spaces so people can find them, because I think that's so important. A lot of the people who listen to my podcast are mamas. So that's awesome. Okay. So I want to just go back into the business mode here again. One of the things that I know that you specialize in is strategy. For entrepreneurs. And I want to talk about the word strategy, because when I hear the word strategy, to me, it's like this big, like, thing that he's like, when as a business owner and entrepreneur, I'm like, okay, I need a strategy. Like, to me, my mind starts going social media, website, Facebook ads, all the things. So can you like kind of summarize strategy, and what are some of the key points that you need to be looking at when it comes to strategizing for your business?
Oh, that's so good. So when I look at strategy, I look at it a little bit differently. I think of anything that can be processed, systemized, or workflow for your business. So my whole thing is I want to make and this is why I have 8. I want to make your business work for you versus you like work in your business. And there are so many different things out there that can do that. So like, for instance, we'll tap onto, we'll talk about email marketing as a quick example.
Yeah.
Like when I think of an email marketing strategy, I think of like nurtured campaigns and lead generation campaigns and like walking your customer through an experience that actually is not you sitting there sending out the emails manually, every day, every Thursday at 4:00. Like, I want you to set something up and have that work for you continuously while you sleep or while you travel or while, you're spending time with your daughter.
Yeah.
And that's what I think of for strategy. So it's basically having your business work for you.
I love that. Okay. So it's putting things into more systems and automation, would you say too?
Oh yeah. Automation. And for me, everything can be systemized in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it can also still look genuine being systemized. So be it ads, be it emails, be it your website and the functionality on your website, be it, batching content for social media or for blogging or for podcasts, like all of these things can have systems and workflows and process. So like for me, like I'll use an example of my podcast. When I record a podcast, I hit done, I upload it to a Dropbox. My podcast guru puts the intro, puts the outro, puts the commercial, uploads it. He sends me a link. I click approve and it's done.
That's awesome.
So there's these things in place versus like going back and forth with, do you like second number 14 or whatever the case is?
Yeah.
That it just kind of buttons up the system. And it's funny because when I first started the podcast, an example of that would be a podcast took 6 hours to produce. Now a 30-minute podcast takes 45 minutes to produce.
Yeah.
So you just get that efficiency with the repetitive nature of, whatever you're trying to workflow.
Yeah. So trying to get everything organized into spaces and systems and processes. And so like a strategy, like, so if someone came to you and said, okay, I have this business, I'm a coach, I do this. My strategy is I want to grow my client base. I want to have more clients. So then you would come up with a specific strategy, whether it be an email campaign, put some systems in place to help them grow that audience.
So it's funny because automatically I want to like roll up sleeves and start coaching you. If you were in that case, my questions to you would be, are you trying to become more visible, or do you already have a client base that you're trying to re-engage? Because those are 2 very different strategies, and they can work hand in hand. And a lot of times that's what's happened. That's what happens. But like, if you're a brand new coach, it's going to be a lot different than you're like, oh, I have this email marketing database of like 36,000 people who I just haven't reached out to. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I want to reach across and like shake you.
There's so much potential in there.
Exactly. So like, I think in a sense of like micro strategies of like figuring out, what it is that you need for your business based on what you already have.
Yeah.
Everyone coming to the business table has something that's working for them.
Yeah.
it's just exploiting that and really navigating through that so you can create other systems that work for you as well.
Yeah, I love that. And prioritizing, like, what is your need right now? Like right now, is your need money? Like you need to, like, obviously we all need to make money, but if that's your main, priority, or is your priority growth right now? Like, trying to figure out the priority and then strategizing to that effect to make that piece.
I literally had a conversation yesterday her top priority was getting over 10K on Instagram.
Yeah. Isn't everybody?
I'm like, same with mine. I'm like, so she's like, I know if I get over 10K, I'm going to be able to, cross the income barrier that I'm at. I'm like, how?
Yeah.
It's just because so it gets into the competition mentality a lot. Cause I'm like, yeah, I want 10K too, but I don't have time to sit there and devote to Instagram growth when I have other things that are making money.
Yeah.
And I think it's a false notion in the online world too, that you can only make money if you have this huge, loyal following and all the people.
Yeah.
I just call bullshit on that because that is not true. I know people who have thousands and thousands of followers who are making less than $50,000 a year.
Yes. And let's talk about that because, we keep things super real here. So the followers, the fake, I want quality followers. I want my followers to be people who are relatable to what I do. I don't want just, any Joe Blow from somebody who's not even an entrepreneur, who doesn't even care, who wants to marry me. You know what I mean? I don't want a number. I want quality followers, right? I mean, obviously having more followers makes you look more influential or more, but people can easily go in and see who your followers are and see if they are quality or not. You know what I mean? There is a little bit of that. You can sort of, check that out, and sort of call someone's bluff, I guess you could say. So you're in the same vein of quality versus quantity, and that you can still have a very profitable business even if you don't have.
I mean, I'll be really, really clear. The cookie company, I contemplated buying an account that had 10,000 followers.
Yeah.
Honestly, it does look cool, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But we didn't. I mean, we have 3,000, I think just around 3,000. But I will say out of those 3,000, if I post an event or a giveaway or whatever the case is, our engagement rate is up in the 20 percentile.
That's good.
Which is unheard of on Instagram. On average, it's 1 to 2%.
Yeah.
I have an email marketing list that's under 1,000 people. But if I post a promo code or a giveaway or a post, I have an 80% click-through rate.
That's
so I'd
amazing.
rather that scenario versus 20,000 people. They won't give a shit about me or my company.
Yeah, it's so true though, right? It's just focusing on delivering service and value and not just trying to gain numbers, because the numbers don't mean anything if they're not converting. Exactly. Right? So it's about getting quality people that, that you can exchange services with, that you can help and support, and that they want to buy what you have to offer. So I have
multiple six-figure businesses, and not a single one of my accounts has over 10K. People are I need 10K, and then I don't know, angels will come down from heaven and sing me a song. That's not true.
It's not happening. Although I have to say, I would love the swipe up feature. I'm just saying.
That's all I want.
I wish Instagram would just give that to everybody so that we're not all losing our minds.
Just from a user experience standpoint, I'm link in bio, link in bio. And I'm I just want to be just press the, not even swipe up, maybe just a button. Give me something else that I can send.
Well, and this was some awesome advice that I got from somebody. I don't know his last name, but his first name's Tyler. And if I can find him, he's an Instagram guru guy. But he said once in a video I watched about, if you don't have the 10,000, because he's saying even having the swipe up, that's easy. If you have something and you want to offer to people, ask them to send you a DM, a direct message, and create conversations with people in your messenger and ask them to just message you, and then you'll give them the link. And I thought that's such a smart idea. He's even if you have swipe up, ask them to DM you, because you'll get so much more engagement with people, real engagement, versus just going, hey, swipe up and grab it kind of thing. So
I love that. However, caveat to that, I've done that in the past. Then you're sorting through,
yeah,
messages, and they're did I forget someone? They message you and you forget to message them back, or
yes, you have to be careful if you're gonna get a lot of DMs. But you know what? If you get a lot of DMs, consider yourself that's hey, better than no DMs.
If it's a paid product, I would recommend doing that. If it's a freebie, save yourself some energy.
Yes, I love that. Yes.
But so also I love Instagram. I love Facebook. Like literally my first job, like while I was in college, was at Facebook.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
So I've been there since the start. But what's really funny for me is I don't promote that as your lead strategy at all. No. Reason being is if Mark Zuckerberg or, the guy who runs Instagram gets angry and decides to shut down all the businesses, like you own nothing.
Nada.
So the people who have 150,000 followers or, 1 million followers and are a coach and they don't have an email marketing list,
mm-hmm.
someone gets mad, someone shuts it down, and then guess what? They don't have a business. Because they've relied solely on that versus actually relying on their own things.
Well, and let's talk about that, because one of the things that I noticed, and I just started my coaching business online 3 years ago. And so much has even changed when I started. Like I started with Facebook Live when Facebook Live first came out, and I built a huge following on Facebook on my business page because I was showing up live and people were tagging and sharing and whatever. But in the last couple of years, even in the last year, the algorithms have changed completely. And when I was going live, I was getting 25, 30 people watching me live. And now I'm lucky if I get 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And so that just even goes to show you how we don't own the content, that we don't even own like the algorithms in that area, in that space. And so when you think about Facebook, for those who are listening, what is their best bet for advertising themselves or getting out there and calling in their clients using Facebook? Like, is it your business page and boosting? Like, where do you feel like is the best time and money spent, I guess you could say?
Not on Facebook. That's my answer.
Not on Facebook.
Right now I'm doing a test, and I'll be really honest with you. I'm not sure how it's going yet. But I'm promoting them from my business page, and I'm actually promoting them in the Messenger app.
Okay.
So the ad, if they click learn more, they're not going to my website, they're not going to my business page, they're actually getting a pop-up that has like, it's a customized pop-up that would say like, hey Shayna, like how are you today, like what are you looking for, like how can I help you, how can I serve you? So that's kind of my test for that, because I feel like with all social media in general, we've taken the social out of social media, and we've just kind of used it as another marketing channel, which I understand completely as to why the heads of these businesses don't want that to happen, because that was not the intention of the business. Sure, it's a really easy way for them to monetize, but it's not the intention, and it's making the user base actually drop. So like for me, that's my test, is taking a campaign and trying to make it social again is kind of like my new test of how I'm doing business.
So it's more of a conversation you're having between people that's maybe automated versus doing like an ad on Facebook with a picture or a video and then sponsoring it and then having it go into people's feeds.
Yeah, so that's what's worked for the coaching side of things and what's worked for the marketing side of things. For the cookie company, I just jump on and do a live Q&A.
Yeah.
And I'll do a live Q&A and I'll answer any questions that they have related to, breastfeeding or motherhood or sleep training or whatever the case is.
Mm-hmm.
A ton of information, a ton of value add. And then sometimes I'll have like, if we have a sponsor for like, we'll get like, breast pads or bamboobies, or we get all sorts of crazy stuff because of the space we're in. I'll be like, guys, if you're interested and you do want to place an order, I'm going to throw a couple of these in your box just as a freebie giveaway.
Oh, that's awesome.
Just kind of continuing to find places where you can naturally add value and naturally be more top of mind for your client.
Yeah. I find that I right now, currently I use on Facebook more than anything is my Facebook group. So it's like a space where it's like a community, and it's like, we all are talking business in there, and there's prompts, and like, I'll do videos in there and just, create conversation around building a business. And I find that that's been good, because I find that the people that are in there, they want to be in there. They've chosen to be a part of that versus when you're just kind of blasting and sponsoring, right?
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. I mean, for me, I will never claim to be your like social media guru business coach. I would much rather have you build your own empire out of dependencies of other platforms.
Yeah.
Because I see the long-term game. I eventually see all of them shutting down business pages. I really do.
Yeah.
I mean, Google Plus was, huge for businesses 3 to 4 years ago, and they're closing down. Or they might close down. I think it's like this week.
I got emails about it too. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, you look at that, like everyone literally, when that opened, were supposed to go over there because it was supposed to boost rankings and blah, 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 blah. And like Periscope too is like Periscope was supposed to help on Twitter. So you look at all these trends and you're like, it's only a matter of time. And I mean, I don't want any of my businesses or the people who I coach to be dependent on someone else.
On something else. So your main thing is you need to obviously have a web space, because that's something that, I mean, you own the site. I guess lots of things can happen online, but you own that space and you own your email list. So the bottom line, I still think, definitely have an online presence, be on social media and all of those things, because they're there and they're available and they're practically free, I guess, unless you're paying to play. But the things that we really need to have as an online entrepreneur is the email list. And then of course the space where people can find you that you own, which would be a website. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And then what I see actually happening is a trend is people actually creating their own member space. So their own, I mean, it's funny because it's almost secular, because if you look at like what the internet used to be, it used to be like forums and things like that. Yeah. And I feel like it's almost penduluming back towards that area.
Yeah.
Because then they own it. They have that person, they can change things on it.
Yeah, it's their own space, and it's still a membership. It's still reoccurring. It's still a community. You can still, I'm sure there's going to be software and things that are coming that are going to allow us to develop those things easier than right now trying to code it and build it yourself kind of thing. But I agree. I think it's awesome that we have social media. I think it's been great for business. I know as the network marketers that are listening, for us, it's allowed us to really expand our reach and our networks. From an online entrepreneur standpoint, I have clients from all over Canada, the US, even Australia. And if it wasn't for social media, I wouldn't be able to have those clients and those people, as you know. So I think it's a great platform to utilize, but yeah, to protect yourself, also have things that you own yourself too. I love that. I wanted to ask you about one thing for sure before we wrap up, because it's funny, we just went through my last question, what is the future for business online? And you just tackled that without even me asking. But one of the things I want to talk about is this keyword, this buzzword, SEO. So people are I know that this is something that I am learning a little bit more about now. And it's what is SEO? Why is this as important? And how do you specifically, your company, help people with that?
Yeah, totally. So SEO is search engine optimization. And essentially how I like to describe it is if you type something into Google or Bing or whatever the case is, you get the ads up top and you get the ads down the side. Immediately underneath there, you actually get the real search results that the search engines deem are important and viable based on whatever you're searching. And essentially what SEO is, it's the process that you actually utilize to create content. And kind of I think of it as a website and using a ton of little Post-it notes of being hey, Google, look here. Yeah. Hey, Google, read this. Hey, Google, this is what this picture is. And actually breaking it down for the search engines so that they understand what's on your page. So for instance, Google can see text really, really well. It can't see images. So if I have a giant call to action and I have, all the information in an image-based file, Google doesn't know what the hell is on that page. So for us as an SEO team or person or whatever the case is, membership base, we actually create content around that picture to tell them what's exactly in the picture. Maybe specifically label out the call to action, specifically describe the picture. We've gotten so granular, for the female co-working space, co-working space for female entrepreneurs in Charlotte, North Carolina, really telling them what exactly it is, versus so often when you rip a picture from a website, if you're looking at the actual code behind it, it says, photo number 727A. You're oh, great. That tells Google a lot. So it's really just giving them the directions and the roadmap to rank your website and to deem it credible.
Oh, that's cool. So it's yeah. So is it an evolving thing? You're constantly having to go in and look at and edit and change and adjust?
Yeah. So Google, all the other businesses, likes to change their algorithms. So Google will release updates based on SEO to try to get it more drilled down to what they think is perfect. So for instance, if I was a dentist 10 years ago, I would say, I am a dentist in Charlotte, North Carolina. I went to this dentist school for dentistry, and I really like being a dentist because dentist. Now it's so smart that it actually looks at quality of content and it doesn't look at what's considered keyword stuffing. So we have to get really, really smart with how we actually serve up information to them in order to actually fall in line with their algorithm and rank.
Okay. So, and getting smarter, meaning like you have to.
There's so many factors.
Okay.
So like, for instance, there's two things called on-page and off-page SEO. And I teach literally courses and courses on this.
Okay.
On-page, on-site SEO means the content that you're actually giving. Off-page, off-site is something that people are linking out to you.
Got you.
It has to be like a happy balance between the two of them. The two of them have to communicate, like replicable sites. And like, you get into all of these like very, very granular details.
Gotcha.
And it's funny because like, I often shudder in like Facebook entrepreneur groups. I'm in there like, I'll SEO your site for $99. And I'm like, like, if I think of ads, I can think of a $99 campaign because I think that's more of a short-term game.
Yeah.
SEO, you're talking like, we literally just pitched a website where we have 170 hours worth of work to do for their site.
Oh, wow. And that's all behind the scenes stuff.
It's a blogger, mind you. She produces a ton of content, but it's all behind the scenes stuff to like show exactly what Google's doing.
Wow.
Where you want them.
And how important is it for an online entrepreneur to be found by Google? Like, so it's obviously, I know it's important, but can you kind of shed some light on why this is so important?
Yeah. So if you don't want to pay to play for the long-term game, getting SEO is really, or getting, better optimized SEO is really where it's at. So like, if you have no problem paying, like you'll show up first, but you're going to pay for that spot. Yeah. And like, for me, I personally feel like if I look at the whole picture of what I'm doing, I don't plan on having a business for another year. I plan on having another business for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
So I want to be spending money on ads continuously to drive people to my website for 20 years. Probably not. But I would rather like, and everything's going to continue to change when it comes to the algorithms and things, but like, to be ahead of the curve versus like not do anything and then eventually wait, I just feel like is kind of where we need to focus, like as a entrepreneur, so to speak, community.
And I think, this leads me into the next thing, which, all of that stuff, like as an entrepreneur myself, thinking about all the SEO stuff, like my brain doesn't have the capacity to try and carry all that information. So for me, I know where I want to specialize is in, coaching people to, get past fears and get online and do all those things. So I want to hire somebody to do those things for me so that I can continue to focus on where I know I'm best. So, which leads me to about hiring mentors and having people to, help you with these things. Like when you look at your own business and your own growth through the things, like how important has that piece been for you? And then I want you to share how you support and help people yourself with your online business, because you mentor people as well. So let's talk about mentorship for a quick minute here.
Yeah, totally. So I'm going to also tie that into, I believe that you should start a business with the intention if it's going to be a multi-million-dollar business.
Yes.
So like, because I feel like for me, and I've made this mistake before, which is now why I have this idea. I said, it's just going to be a small marketing agency and I can do SEO and I can do ads and I can do graphic design and I can do website, And then like, lo and behold, that's when you're in the hustle days of working 4 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Yes.
I feel like starting out with the idea that, hey, this is going to grow, this is going to scale, actually leads you for a greater success. So tying that back in with mentorship, you don't know what you don't know. Let's just put it out there. Like I could never have, like I'll walk into the cookie business. It's a fairly new business. It's about a year old. I had no idea the Department of Agriculture regulations we needed to go through, the artisanal shipping processes we needed to go to because we were shipping food across the world. Like all of these things until I found someone to actually mentor me who's walked that path and who's like actually done that before with shipping a food product.
Yes.
So like for me, if I look at like a mentor and especially one that I'm paying like more of a coach type of relationship, yes, I'm paying them probably a good deal of money up front, but the amount of shortcuts, tips, tricks, time, money that I've saved is so much more beneficial to me than actually spending that time or that money up front.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like any of the mentors that I've had, have saved me time in one way, shape, or form. And to me, time is sometimes more valuable than money, you know, like just having somebody go, no, don't do that. You need to do it this way. And then I'm like, oh God, like I spent like 10 hours last week trying to figure that out, you know? And then you've got somebody who's like, no, that's not how you do it. You do it like this. It's like, boom. Right. And then you're good.
And I feel like it's super important too, to find that mentor, to find that coach that will also give you options.
Yes.
Like I've also been in the position where like, this is the way that you do it. And if there's no other way to do it, and you know, your business won't be successful. And if that's not true, this is where I get a little bit slightly like,
yeah,
if it's not in alignment with how you want to run your business, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So like I personally work with, and I, as myself being a business mentor, give options of like, hey, well, I could see this working and I can see this working.
Yeah.
Or what I often say is like, this is more of the short-term game. Like, do you want to play for, you know, do you want to get the big wins, or do you want to get the long-term wins?
Yeah. So giving those options for people to kind of feel what feels kind of more right for you in what you're doing.
And it's going to vary based on business. It's going to vary based on season. It's going to vary based on, I mean, like I had someone who's literally like, who was a great mentor of mine. She's amazing, but she's like, take the cookie business, have someone co-pack it and just be done with it and just make your money off of it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no, that really doesn't work with like how I'm like, I'd be worried about quality. I'd be worried about like all the things. So like for me, yes, it probably would be easier than like having my kitchen graded to be a commercial kitchen and going through Department of Agriculture, like, you know, walkthroughs and surveys and, you know, where they're like swiping the dust off your counter from like off the top of the cabinets.
Oh my God.
It's going to process but like from us, like that was more in alignment than like us even going to get like a commercial kitchen.
Yeah.
Another piece of advice, go get a commercial kitchen. I'm like, yeah, but then I have to pay for childcare for my daughter. Like we're together, we're separate more than we are apart. So it's continuing to build like something that I don't want to build.
Yeah.
Your path may not always be the easiest, but I mean, if it's true to you, it's going to be a hell of a lot better than the alternative.
Yes. And this circles back to the seasons, right? Like for you right now, the season you're in is you want to stay hands-on with this business. You want to like be, you know, in control of it and do it like the way you're doing it. And there will be maybe a season coming up where you're kind of ready to, you know, okay, it's time to move it out now. It's time to make that adjustment or that shift, right? And so you kind of have to go through those seasons. For me, when I started my business, there was part of me that did want to try and play around with different things and try and figure it out myself, because that's kind of who I am, you know. But then there was a point in time where I'm like, all right, I'm not really getting anywhere with all of this. Like it's time to like get some help, right? And just move into that next season of my own business.
Yeah, there was a season for the agency where I was the one who coded every single website we developed. And it's funny because now I'll do the wireframe and I'll make it pretty and put the strategy behind it of how we're going to build it, what tools and functions. But then I give it to my team to actually have them develop now.
Yeah.
It's funny. I mean, like for me, like I couldn't, when I was in that space where I was the only one doing it, I couldn't imagine giving it to someone else to like farm, not necessarily farm it out, but like to like have a team, like to trust them to do that.
Yeah.
Never even like in my thought process. I'm like that's
the control freak in me. Be like, oh, like I can't let it go.
It's funny if my girl Sarah is listening to this, the first website she actually ever took 100% control of, I was like, so what are you doing? How are you doing it? Your coach would leave me alone.
Let me get my work done.
Exactly. She's like, oh, you're micromanaging me again. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm broken.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, like those moments where we did all of that work and we were doing those things and going through that, it was in preparation to prepare us to be able to understand it and learn it. And so we needed to know certain things about it, but we didn't necessarily always have to be the one doing the physical work. So I always feel like whatever season you're in right now, it's preparing you for the next place that you're going. And sometimes the seasons you're in maybe are sucky. Maybe they're shitty. Maybe they're like frustrating and making you angry and you're not getting anywhere and you're spinning your wheels, but there's something in that season that's preparing you for the next place. And then
when I lost my $25,000 in the business, I looked at my husband. I'm like, I'm just going to go back and get a job. I'm done. But it's funny because going through that experience and through that process, being able to help brick and mortars, like I owned a brick and mortar before that. This was my second one that did not pan out. It's funny because now if I look back at it, for the 3 years after that experience, I've had so many more brick and mortar clients that I can actually help and serve because of that.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, from my mistakes. Like, come into my cape.
Yes, but that's the thing. That's the biggest thing that I mean, there's been so many amazing takeaways from this chat, but the mistakes are there to teach us something. Like, you can't look at failure as I don't even think you can look at it as failure. You have to look at it as a stepping stone. There was a lesson in that, and everything that we're doing, like it's all preparing and moving you and growing you. And that's the whole point, right? It's the journey that we're on.
Exactly.
I love that. Okay. Well, there's been so much awesome stuff in here, and I just want to thank you so much for your time. I want you to share, if you can, before we wrap up, what is out of all the businesses, knowing that we've got a lot of female entrepreneurs that are on this chat, for the business, I know the business that you have, that is the strategy and the marketing and all that stuff. Can you share how that works, what you offer, where people can find you, that kind of thing? Like, if you want to just give us a little bit on that, and then we'll wrap up with some final tips.
Yeah, totally. So it depends if a person needs strategy work.
Mm-hmm.
If a person needs the actual strategy and like thought process behind it, it's CassandraShuck.com.
Okay.
It's like my business online home for all things strategy, all things business coaching, all things mentorship. There's no implementation that I actually do on there. That's with my marketing agency.
Okay.
And that's Tola, Tola, marketing.com. And that's where we actually will take the strategy either that you come with, or that we create in a business like mentor relationship, and actually put it into implementation. So website design, logo design, graphics, branding, SEO, paid search, like you name it, funnel processes and procedures, email marketing, like you name it, except social media.
Yeah.
That's where to find it for the actual implementation is on Tola.
Oh, I love that. So people can come to you if they've got a business and they're maybe struggling, or they're trying to put the pieces together and not really, figuring it out. They can come to you and get the strategy. And then if there's things that they can't do themselves, or they don't want to do themselves, then your marketing agency can help them implement the strategy if they need that.
Exactly.
That's awesome. I love that. And that includes like all the SEO, like you said, the marketing, the website design, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. My piece too is also education. So like, if you're like, okay, like I want an SEO audit, we do this audit that's sometimes upwards of 90 pages, depending on how much content you have. But then like we actually sit there and like explain things to you of like what's going to like help in the long term, what's going to help in the short term, like, and give you options and like choices of like, hey, this is all that we could do. This is like our low range package, and just kind of break it down, because there's nothing more rewarding than like, I've had a client literally be able to start explaining SEO or something that they don't understand back to me like a year later.
Yes, I love that. I definitely want to do that SEO audit for the site. I think that's such a smart service to offer, because it's something that people don't necessarily understand. It's something that a lot of people don't have the time to really dig into and try and understand it. And then to be able to, hire you to go through the site, and then just getting the feedback on it. It does, like you say, it helps you to start kind of understanding it. Yeah. That you can maybe not necessarily want to go back in there and do all the work on it, but at least you know what you've got going on and how you can, going forward, do things in a way that's going to be more SEO friendly. Right? Awesome. I love that. So if you were, listening, to everything we've talked about today, and knowing that the audience here today is just, like I said, some of them are network marketing entrepreneurs. Some of them are, online entrepreneurs. Some of them are network marketers that are looking to become online entrepreneurs. And if you think of that getting started process, what would be, top 3 tips if you're somebody who's thinking about starting in the online space? What are a couple of things that you can offer as your best getting started advice?
First thing that's coming through is, I would say, get clear on like what it is you want to offer, and like what that calling is on your heart. And I would really honestly sit there and do a ton of journaling activities about like, what is it that you felt stuck on that you can then help someone else get through? I think that's the most important part of like your business is you're basically taking your clients as your little sister along with you on the journey, and making it easier for them than it was for you. Like kind of channeling that you went through this experience so you could help someone else.
I love that.
I would also say start to kind of rally a tribe or a group, or if you want to get really fancy with it, a focus group, to start bouncing your ideas off people. So like I have a tendency, I have 1,000,001 ideas. Not all of them are good though. So like I actually end up I'll create a little mini Facebook group or a focus group and just poll people and be like, hey, are you interested in this service? Like, what would you pay? What location are you looking at? Because then it's not me only making the decision, but I can actually serve and impact more.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would say get clear, kind of create your little mini tribe. And then I would say honestly, just start small, start somewhere, start doing something that actually gets you to that. So often, like we think of, oh, well, in order to have this business, I have to have X, Y, and Z lined up, and I have to have this big giant space and like, et cetera. Like so often, like I'll use the cookie company as an example. We made our first 25,000 cookies in a mixer that only mixed 20 cookies at once. So like it's you're setting limiting beliefs on yourself.
Yeah.
More so than not. But you're like, oh, well, I can't do it because I don't have this piece of equipment, because I don't have this certification, because I don't have this education, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
This is actually just starting it and trying it.
I love it. And know that all the entrepreneurs that you see in the online space, most of them probably did start with just, one little piece of business online. Maybe they started doing live videos, or maybe they started doing Instagram live, and it's like evolved over time. It wasn't like they launched with every single piece in place perfectly and everything was up and running and glorious. Like I didn't start that way. I don't know about you, but you know what I mean? Like it was just like, I'll start here and then, I should probably do that. And then I better add this in. And like, it's just evolved over time. So I think those are great, awesome starting tips. I love it. Well, this has been so informative, so much fun. I know we could probably sit here and talk all afternoon about business and all these things. Thank you so much for your time and your value and your education and your stories and just being so real with us here today. I'm going to put all your links for all your things in the show notes. If you're looking for the show notes, head over to ShanaRecker.com. It's in the show notes section. Cassandra, thank you so much. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and thank you for keeping it real for women entrepreneurs. I feel like that's something we really need to do more often. Yeah,
it's truly just the way that I operate. It's like I kind of say, there's no filter, I just kind of say things like they are, My husband always says that. He's like, there's no filter in there, is there? I'm like, no, not really. I talk too fast.
Yeah, same with me. My husband's listened to my coaching calls. He's like, you got paid to say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what came through. I mean,
yeah. And I think that's as a final tip here, it's like I said, we keep talking forever, but your intuition is when I'm doing a coaching call, it's like I listen to what comes up for me. And I feel like if it's coming up for me when you're talking, it's because I meant like there's something there in that thing. It's not like I'm just making it up. It's like I feel like we're connected somehow to source. And if there's intuition that's nagging at you to start that business, that's saying to you, you should be coaching people in this, or you should be talking about this, or you need to start this, listen to that intuition because it's telling you something. So I'm going to wrap it up with that. Thank you so much, Cassandra. This has been great. Thanks everybody for listening to today's episode, and can't wait for you guys to meet Cassandra. Go check her out and all her links and all her things. And thanks so much again. This has been wonderful.
Thank you.